Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I have been having a wonderful time mingling with you rock stars across this nation. I'm so thankful for everyone in North Dakota that has given me a place, an opportunity to speak among you at your conference. We have been having a blast. It has been great. And with that said, I am going to now transition into my announcements. First things first. The Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White will be featured on Spotify and also on all of my main social media outlets. So make sure you're keeping an eye out there. Speaking of my social media, right now you can follow me on Facebook as Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. YouTube is India White 123. And TikTok is Dr. India White. Threads is also Indie238. It's like the same as Instagram. I also wanted to encourage you, whenever you get a chance, please check out my website, www.india-white.com, for books, blogs, or to schedule me for your next speaking event, coaching event, PD in your school, whatever you've got going on. I'm here. Utilize me while I'm here. I thank all of you across this nation that have been helping and also getting me in the room, putting my name out there, telling your leaders, hey, we need to get her in to come speak or come train. I'm so excited. And I can't wait to mingle with many of you. I also wanted to remind you of a couple of events. Right now, we are living at large in North Dakota. It's been a wonderful conference, very nice and just clean and peaceful. It's been great. I'm excited to also embrace many of you guys at the FCTM in Florida. Make sure you bring your sun tanning or sunscreen lotion. Make sure you bring a fan, like one of those little mini fans, because you're going to need it in the 96 or whatever degree weather that it's going to be. But we welcome you open arms. I also will see many of you rock stars at Camp Conference in July in Texas. Super excited about that. We'll see you at NCSM and at ICTM and at NCTM and at OCTM in Ohio. Thank you, Ohio, for opening your doors to me and giving me the opportunity to come alongside you all. Now, with that said, I also wanted to remind you to please check out my new mini workshop called How to Harness Grit to Help Students Thrive on the Grassroots Workshops website with Robert Kaplinski and crew. So thanks, Robert and team, for that. Now, with that said, I am super thrilled to bring on this amazing guest. This person their energy is contagious, and they have done so many wonderful attributes in life, in the world of education, that it's just a high honor to have them in the tribe and to have them on my podcast. So with that said, I want to now welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast, Vanessa Zacharia. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Oh my gosh, like what a lovely intro. That just made me feel very excited.
Well, you know, you're a wonderful person. You've done so many things. I want you to first tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my God, this is the worst. Like, I don't even know. I'm already stumped. Tell you a bit about myself. Okay. I'm just going to go with what's relevant right now. My name is Vanessa. Hi, I'm in Canada. So when you were talking about bringing a fan to Florida, because it's 90 something, I almost threw up. It is a nice 10 degrees Celsius right now in June, which is my favorite. I'm wearing like velvet. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that 90 something sounds disgusting. Whatever. Things about me, I do not like the heat. Number one, I have a podcast called Math Therapy, which you were on. I just found out that my book is available for pre-order, Math Therapy. It comes out on Keanu Reeves's birthday, my future husband. He's a Virgo. I'm a Gemini. It's a really good match. I'm really into astrology. I have a master's in math ed. I guess that's relevant. And, you know, I'm just here to help everyone believe that they're capable of anything, starting with math.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Now, speaking of your master's in math ed, personally, I am under the wise and sound discretion that you actually deserve an honorary doctorate. And so, with that said, I have decided to craft for you my own version of an honorary doctorate for you. So, with that said, be ready to receive your honorary doctorate here live on the show.
Oh
So,
my God.
guys, I have.
Oh my God. Look, I'm even wearing a gown, kind of. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have a cap. Okay, this is why I'm here, quite frankly. This is why I
Right.
came.
So this is from me, from my company, Rising Glory Productions, and we are giving you this honorary doctorate of achievement. This certificate belongs to Dr. Vanessa Vacaria for participating in keynotes across the nation and for your success in the Math Therapy podcast, presented on you on the 13th of June, 2024. You are so worthy of this. We need to give you a round of applause right now because you deserve it.
Honestly, like, I've never seen G.R. next to my name, and it looks really good there.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
I agree. And the thing is, why not own it? You know what I mean? And I think, we're gonna make sure that you get a doctorate one way or another. So that's the first one. But I think I'm going to also take advantage of that moment right now and just go ahead and put it there for you in advance. So, Dr. Vanessa Vacaria.
Thank you so much. I mean, I feel in this world, in the climate we're in, we really need things to augment our credibility because no one believes that we can do anything as women. So I think most women should just get an honorary doctorate for existing on the planet at this point.
Yeah. I mean, for real, like women do so much. And, whether it's motherhood, being a supportive spouse, or just all of the different things that we constantly are inventing, and, the way we evolve, the way we grace, throughout society, throughout life is just priceless. Especially the older women that are just such gems, and they have just, they have paved the way for us. They are definitely to be commended. And so with that said, I want to talk more about you and about just your journey. And so first off, congratulations on your book. We're not going to sweep that, Dr. Vanessa, under the rug. Your book on math therapy that was just launched. And tell us, how do you feel about it? I mean, what's going on?
I'm really, really excited. So the book comes out in September, so it's not out yet, but it's like available for pre-order. And I have a lot of mixed feelings. Like I talk a lot about math trauma. That's my area of expertise and work.
Yeah.
But I will say that in addition to trauma, I have severe writing trauma. And like the idea of writing a book was always like, just because I'm on the G.R.I.T podcast, I feel this is something to talk about. The idea of writing a book was always like super daunting to me and something I felt like was a big hurdle to overcome. And I never wanted that fear of not being able to do it to prevent me from like publishing this book that was really in my heart, right? Like this is the work I've been doing for 15 years now. And I'm really proud of myself. I guess. Thank you for bringing this up. And I'm a really big believer that we have to celebrate these little things because next time we're faced with something hard to do, it's important to get to that emotion you felt when you did something hard the last time, to really let that soak in and to celebrate it so we can have that in our body and in our muscle memory for the next time we're faced with a challenge. So I'm excited. I hope everyone likes it, and I'm excited for people to read it. And I'm mostly so excited that I got to design the cover, and it's like Barbie pink.
I know. I saw it's so gorgeous. And it's so perfect with your personality too. You're very bright and bubbly. So everything aligns right there. And talk to us about the grit that you needed when you were writing that book and how did you cultivate your grit? What were some things that you were doing?
Well, it's so funny. Like grit is obviously like a word that didn't exist when I was in school or when I was growing up or anything. But even like I failed grade 11 math twice. I was always told that I wasn't a math person and that people like me couldn't do math. So even in thinking of how I persevered through that and eventually ended up, followed that path and that journey, even though I was told I couldn't, like that was all grit. And like, coming to the idea now, I always say this to like math teachers, that one of the greatest skills you can teach kids is not like factoring or SOHCAHTOA, even though I'm a fan of both of those.
Yes.
But it's giving them the tools and the mindset to persevere when things get tough and when they think they can't do something. And truly, my grade 12 math teacher gave me that, you know, like when I went in there after finally passing grade 11 math the third time with a 57 and went to grade 12 math, from the very beginning, she made it clear that she believed I could do it, you know? And yeah, and that, along with that belief came tools, you know, like extra resources, like a person I could tap into, like different study strategies. So from, you know, that was so long ago. And those are the same tools I use when writing this book. Like, you know, I was faced with the exact same feeling, like, I'm not a writer. Like you know, I can't write a book. Everyone can do it better than me. Like, I'm not good at this. I'm very attached. I think we're all really attached to storylines that we've been told about ourselves and we've hung on to. So like, I've always been attached to the storyline that I'm not a writer. I'm ADHD, so I can't focus on something. I speak in a way that, like, you know, isn't taken seriously. Like, whatever. We all have a list of things. Yeah. So it was really exciting to be able to say to myself, I've had similar storylines in the past, and the most powerful thing you can do is to prove that a storyline is simply a story and not a fact. And
beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I just tried to do every step of the way to help that I had the most amazing editor. You need people that believe in you, right? And that when you're Debbie, and that was the biggest thing. Like, I kind of think of my editor, Debbie, like that math teacher, where she just never wavered in her belief for me.
Wow.
And like, we all need that.
Yeah. And having that self-efficacy. And I talk about that in my GRIT framework. You know, self-efficacy is huge. And, you know, it definitely does help with cultivating grit. And, you know, now I want to spin it a little bit and talk about your profession, just as the rock star that you are. You're out here, you're speaking, you're writing, you're doing so much, and you've impacted so many of us in such a great way. How have you been able to, not only in just writing the book, but just being confident to get yourself out there as a speaker? Like, what gave you the grit to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I got to do this.
You know, I'm in a band, like I'm in a rock band, and that rock band started because I always wanted to be in a band. And, you know, that was one of the reasons everyone told me I couldn't be good at math, because people who are in rock bands or who want to, whatever, or who are artsy aren't good at math. And I always go back to that experience with failing math multiple times and then persevering and developing tools and a skill set that allowed me to move forward. I always think that was the greatest gift for me, because it showed me that failure is not something to be feared. It's something to learn from. So my philosophy with stuff is the way I approach life is I say yes to things and then I figure out how to do them later. So like, I said yes to writing a book, or I said yes to like starting a band, even though I literally could not sing like at all. And I was like, I'm going to figure it out later. And I think, you know, it's funny, you call it confidence. Like, you're like, what gave you the confidence? And I would say it is not confidence. It's, I'm going to say this, even though it seems really cocky, because I don't believe I entirely have this, but it's more of a fearlessness in the sense, like I am scared of a lot of things, but it's a fearlessness in the sense of being like, I've seen what happens when I really mess up and it's not that bad. So I'm kind of like, whatever.
Taking a risk.
Yeah, just the ability to take a risk, because it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, honestly, like, life is so short. We have a limited time in this lifetime that we're in right now. Why not just go for it and figure it out? And if you fall flat on your face, like, who really cares? So I think it's more of a like, I know I can't swear on this podcast, but don't give a F attitude of being like, what's the worst that can happen and what's the best that can happen? And the best that can happen is normally way more exciting than the worst thing that can happen. So you might as well go for it.
Yeah, you're spot on. And that's what it means when you're having that resilience and that grit and being able to, you know, persevere during hard times and during uncertainty. You know, I think that's why we admire firefighters and policemen and, you know, those that are doing this work, and they're constantly faced with uncertainty, and they're going out and they're just making it happen. That's why people love athletes, because they're running these touchdowns in these ridiculous environments and situations that they're up against, especially when you're watching the NFL in the snow. and you're like, really, this guy tackled this guy? Like, I mean, they're doing all this stuff in the snow, and so, it's just a really powerful trait to have. Talk to me a little bit about how grit has helped you with tackling anxiety.
That's funny. I think anxiety is just another storyline. Honestly, I think we live in a climate right now where there is a lot of anxiety. It's a very real thing, but we've been taught to take ownership of it and say things like, my anxiety, I'm an anxious person. I have math anxiety. I have this thing. Wow. And one of the most powerful things you can do is to say that anxiety exists and it's real. It is not an inherent part of you, and it's not something that owns you nor that you own. So being able to separate that storyline and saying, I have experienced anxiety many times before, and this too shall pass. I've gotten through it, not by accident, but by using resources and tools that I've cultivated that are at my disposal now as they were then. And I think that's why it's so important to be reflective when we go through hard things, not to just be really excited that they've passed, but to really sink into them and think, what strategies got me out of that place? What did I learn from this? Yes. What did I gain? And I think that's you're the expert, but I think that's a key part of grit is yes. There are no good and bad emotions. Anxiety is not bad. It is it's a teacher for us. So if we can be a good student to that teacher, and if we can use the lessons we've learned to inform our future, then anxiety is one of the best things that can happen to and for us.
Right. And it's I think it's powerful. And we all have faced anxiety, fears, and even trauma, which I'll talk with you about as well. And just that uncertainty, but grit helps you to really look those fears in the face, like we said before, and to take a risk and to say, I am not defined by anxiety. Mm-hmm. It's only, like you said, it's telling me something about either my environment or my mindset or what I've got going on, but it's not always the truth either. Mm-hmm. So it's being able to say, this is what I'm feeling, I'm sensing, now let me do the work and get the truth. And so students deal with trauma, and I kind of want you to talk a little bit about just maybe some strategies you've used to help students with overcoming trauma and remaining resilient as they're, building in the classroom or whatnot. And maybe you can share a story of maybe a success story of what you've, used with students or maybe even yourself.
So I deal with math trauma, which is different from being like a trauma-informed educator or dealing with ACEs or anything like that. So just to be clear, I deal with math trauma. Yeah. And usually math trauma is micro T or little trauma. So it's stuff that all of us, our educators, are dealing with. It's stuff that, this isn't stuff that you need to be a therapist to deal with. It's stuff like trauma, for example. There's a lack of representation in your environment when it comes to math. You were bullied by an adult. You were told repeatedly that you couldn't do math. You're compared to your siblings or to classmates. All of these things are little traumas. Yeah. And I love how Gabor Mate puts it. He says, it's impossible to walk the earth without experiencing a micro trauma. And I believe everyone has experienced a micro trauma in class because all it is, it's a wound. It's a tiny wound that doesn't heal. And what happens to a wound is either it doesn't heal and every time it is poked or triggered, it hurts, or it builds rigid scar tissue over it that is unmalleable and it can't grow. And so us as teachers, we have this opportunity to say, look, most of our students are coming into the classroom with a little T trauma around math, and I'm going to help them heal from that so they can grow and notice and wonder and like all the wonderful things you want them to do in math class. And I have a lot of incredible stories about this because I've been doing it for over a decade now without even knowing it. But something simple I can just tell you about this past weekend. I've been doing math therapy sessions with my students. So one-on-one, like we'll, sit down at my tutoring studio. And I'll ask them, like, what's up? Like, how are you feeling about math? And they'll tell me what's going on. And usually it starts the exact same way. Well, I just feel like I'm really, really bad at math. And the most powerful question I think you can ask to start getting to the root of a trauma, especially if you're not comfortable with that word, is to say, why do you think you're bad at math? And you will hear all sorts of things, but you'll hear the same things. I'm not fast. I'm not getting a good mark. So-and-so is better than me. I have to work so hard. And one of the key ways to heal math trauma is to simply debunk the myths that are holding someone back. So if someone says, well, I'm not fast, it's a great time to go into a conversation about how being proficient or good at math has nothing to do with speed, right? To go down the route of talking about historical figures who were incredible at math. And one of their key traits were that they were very slow and methodical. So, if someone says, well, I'm not getting a good mark, it's a great opportunity to talk about how marks do not have anything to do with defining math ability. So I think, I always say to educators, talking about math trauma is new. And I think the T word can be scary. And none of us are trained therapists. So we get a little like, oh my God, I don't want to mess this up. But one of the best things you can do if you don't feel like you have the answer is to just ask your students a question. So just saying, why do you feel this way? Why do you think this? You will very quickly, the opposite of that, lead into your area of expertise, which is math education. So letting a student actually talk and be heard will help you uncover the root of what trauma they're coming into the classroom with, and will get you to the path of what you need to do or say to heal that.
Wow. That is very powerful and true. And I appreciate that you're out here doing this work. We need to amplify that voice and that message even more. Speaking of trauma, and what about trauma from the educator lens and those that they might be like, oh, well, like I know some educators are like, I won't teach past 8th grade.
100%.
I just will not go there. And, unfortunately, sometimes their administrators are like, yep, you're teaching Algebra 2 honors. Go for it. And they're like, I don't know, like, what advice do you have to educators that are trying to, tackle trauma?
So, and like, I honestly stand by this. I think every educator probably has micro trauma when it comes to math. Like, so first of all, if you're listening to this, like, and you're like, what? Like, you're not alone. Honestly, most educators, when I do this work, when I do PD, they'll come into it being like, no, not me. And they'll leave being like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? There was this time when I felt really, really stupid. Or like, there was this time when like, I have the exact same thing. Like I used to tutor all the way to grade 12 math. And I have this thing now where I'm like, I cannot tutor above grade 10 math. I've just decided this. I've just like totally decided it. And it comes from so many places. But my advice to educators is this: your biggest superpower in the classroom is being able to empathize with students and being vulnerable with students. A lot of research shows that when you're more vulnerable as a leader, whether in a business setting or a classroom, that the people you're talking to actually trust you more and feel safer around you. So it actually serves you really well to be at the front of the room being like, guys, I'm feeling a bit anxious right now. I'm really nervous. I'm going to get this question wrong on the board and you're going to make fun of me. Or like, you know what? I was always told I wasn't good at this thing and we're about to learn it together. It's so powerful because all of your students will feel seen. They'll feel like they can approach you. And you're up there as an expert saying, even though I feel this way, it doesn't mean I feel bad at math. It means I feel this way, yet I'm still up here teaching you and I still have that expertise. So I think like it not only humanizes you, but it shows the multidimensionality of being a mathematician, which is that we're not always right. We're not always confident. We don't
always have a solution.
Yeah, we don't always have a solution. And that's what math is.
That's beautiful. I'm happy to hear this. It reminds me of, I had a money system in classes, and part of the money system was if I would, model a problem for the student, if I got something wrong, I had to pay, like if a student, told me, hey, miss, you missed that part, or you put a 4 instead of an 8, things like that, I had to pay that student $20. So it really it was a fake money system. It was super sweet. I promise. It was amazing. I can hook y'all up with that if you're interested. But in this money system, there were several times if I'm working on, a system of equation and I'm going really fast, or matrices back in the day, or, whatever it was. And if I missed a number, or, just even dividing, long division, something like that. And I missed a part of it, then the kids would, the kids that spotted it out would get $20. So it put the pressure on me, but it also put the pressure on them to pay attention and to make sure that they could follow it. So I think, this is wonderful that you're giving that advice to teachers to remain vulnerable and basically to give themselves, a little bit more mercy. I want to talk now about overcoming, more of that, overcoming trauma through grit. And I talk about grit being great resilience in time. And so I know I've been on your podcast. We had a blast. And now we're talking about overcoming this trauma through grit and developing some type of go-to system or some type of mindset. When you are talking with educators, or if you're doing introspection on yourself, what have been some things that when you find yourself in a rut, whether it's halfway through the year, or if it's you're getting ready to do a new project, or some whimsical thing happened in your life, you're like, oh my word, and now you have all this trauma, and you're like, I've got to get through this. What are some things that you've been able to do to be successful in that?
I feel like we are really in this place. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but there's the social landscape right now, and everyone I know seems to be in this place where we are so tired. We're tired of the systems that oppress us. We are tired of fighting so hard just to do what we want to do. We're tired as educators of being like, we are here to just teach the kids, and it feels like all the odds are stacked against us. So I think there's two pieces of advice I have. The first is to recenter yourself and realign with your purpose. Why are you going to do this next thing you're going to do? Is it because if you're like, the only reason I'm going to start this new project or get through the year is because I have to, and I have no other choice, that comes from a place of lack, and it doesn't feel good. So I would find a way to realign with why you're there in the first place and what abundance is going to flow from that moment. What are you going to generate? Whether it's this wealth of attitude in your classroom, whether it's a new pathway for you, whether it's a recentering and why you're there, that's number one. But my second piece of advice is start saying no to anything that detracts from your purpose. Because sometimes we're so overwhelmed by these little things that we're caught up in, whether it's getting together with certain friends whose relationships we're just maintaining, or these board meetings, or this club that you're in charge of, or this whatever, that it's all this noise that's detracting from why you're really here to do the work that you're doing. And you can't do that for a step. You can't realign with your purpose. There's too much noise. So I would say make a not to-do list and make a to-do list and shift things from your to-do list onto your not to-do list. And when you're left with the things on your to-do list, make sure you have a why for why you're doing every single thing on that list.
That's pretty powerful. And it's very real for you to say that, especially the not to do, and I can say I'm a little guilty there.
Same.
Yeah. Not being a yes man or yes woman, but learning to say, learning to say, hey, I can't do that. I don't hate your guts. I just have this going on, or it's just not my season. And then let them deal with it however they've got to deal with it. And just trust that if that relationship or that opportunity or that organization, that friendship, whatever, if that was meant for you, it'll be there. It'll come back around.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Dr. India.
And
yes.
I think that people are afraid of that. They're afraid of rejection or losing.
100%.
And especially when you're saying maintaining these relationships, which you already know that people either don't care about you or they're just whatever. And it's not genuine. And yet we're still putting ourselves in these situations that, are just beneath us,
And I have to say, it's part of it is about lack. I love what you said, trusting that if it's meant, if it's aligned, it will be there. And I think that's it. We're scared if we say no now, it's going to detract from some future opportunity. But that is a lack mentality we're living in. And I have to say this because we're both on here, that this happens disproportionately to women and women of color, because we think that we've got to just take every we think that we have to take. I'm sorry. We have done so well. It's been 29 minutes. We think that we have to take, and I didn't really say it. We think that we have to take every crumb that's handed to us because we can't get anything. So you got to just say yes and take everything. And I think I'm doing a lot of unlearning right now around that, of being if I don't protect my energy, when the opportunities that matter that come along, I will not be able to do a good job and say yes to them.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to believe we don't deserve the crumbs. We deserve more than that. And we don't have to say yes to everything.
And you don't deserve abuse either. And
exactly.
You don't have to keep tabling abuse, putting yourself in situations, whether it's a person that you mingle with, or if it's, something that you're involved in. and you know you're being abused emotionally, physically, whatever, you do not have to submit yourself to that. And you talked about women of color. Yeah, we do get a lot of that. I think that for women of color, it's just one, I'm sorry, it's just a part of society, that you're going to, as a woman of color, you're just going to have to accept that you're going to have to prove your lot in life. You're going to have to prove it. And, nobody's going to feel sorry for you. That's just how things are, And so I find that, yes, learning to say no, but then also detoxing of the mess. And so what if somebody's already burned out and I just don't know if I have the strength to do it? Like, I don't know if I have the grit to even go there.
Yeah.
Especially as a woman, a BIPOC woman who, she might feel like the odds are stacked against her, or, some other kind of traumatic situation she's dealing with. I mean, you talk about trauma. How do you help a BIPOC woman overcome trauma, whether it's through grit or whatever, and still, maintain their course, still be successful, still produce? I mean, what message do you have for BIPOC women? Because that's pretty deep.
I think it's like whenever we talk about any of this stuff, we have to be so careful because, no amount of mindset work or like growth mindset or grit or anything detracts from the real systemic barriers there are. None of it. Like, this isn't a like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and like just you're going to be like, no, you're not, that's not it. So I want to be very careful in saying that like all of these strategies and a belief in grit and like making a not to-do list and like a realigning with your purpose, they're all tools. But when you're using tools in a very broken tool, this isn't a good analogy. Clearly I never use tools, but if you're, if the system is broken, you are in such a rough spot. So I think for BIPOC women, I honestly think the first thing to do is to give yourself some grace to say, listen, like my best is good enough and I'm going to do what I can, but also like I'm working within an oppressive system and that sucks. Like, I honestly think being validated for feeling like it's really hard is really important, because I think honestly in the self-help world right now, there is way too much of like, just change your mindset and your life is fixed. Like, that's actually not how it works. Having mindset tools, which is literally all my work, are very, very powerful, but they don't change your life overnight. So it's like a commitment to these practices, but also a commitment to valuing yourself and finding a community that values you. And I know it's not that easy. It's not that easy to be like, I'm just going to change my job and I'm just going to whatever. But I honestly think it's small changes that get you closer to the people you want to be around, a job that aligns with your values, a community that supports you, like all of these things together slowly can help us do that healing. And also like conversations like this and talking to people and being surrounded by people who understand and see you and can empathize with you and share their stories of grit and resilience as well, because it really does take a village. Like, we're not in this in isolation. So like, I would say those are, yeah, I definitely don't want to come up here and be like, I've got a solution for all the BIPOC women out there. Like, I don't. It's hard. It's a hard road. But all I can say are the things that have helped me are being really committed to my practices of like making sure what I'm doing is aligned, being surrounded by people that are aligned, doing a lot of mindset work, doing a lot of work around my own demons and trauma myself. Like, and something as simple, like it sounds so silly, but something as simple as like mindfulness and meditation, simply for the reason that it's our health that's at stake. It's my nervous system that's at stake when I'm so angry with the injustice around me. I want to be able to fight that fight, but not make myself sick. And I've made myself really physically sick over the years by simply having my nervous system be so activated and so stimulated. So I think, seriously, mindfulness, meditation, taking care of our health so we can fight and be out there without making ourselves sick in the process.
Wow. And you're just speaking real truth right now. And I think I'm thankful for you for doing that. And I'm thankful to surround myself with women like you in the BIPOC community. And, and I think being selective on who those women are, not everybody, of course, wants you to win. And you even have people, unfortunately, in certain BIPOC communities that are also inflicting damage because they are dealing with either their own versions of PTSD, or they're dealing with their own setbacks. And so, unfortunately, you can't grab everybody's hand and do a kumbaya, but it's more of a vetting process of, who is in my tribe. And, I consider you to be in my tribe. I consider,
that's so nice.
I think, for real, I mean that, and, I vibe people out. And I think that that's what we need to do more than ever. And I also want to say this, it is easy to acknowledge the oppression, but I just want to also caution and say, we have to acknowledge it, but also refuse to be victim, right? Because it's not going to help us. It's not going to help anybody. And you just have to accept, you have to accept what lot you have in life, but learn that through that acceptance and through grit and hard work, you can make something beautiful out of it, even if it seems like it's absolutely nothing, you can make something out of it. And so I want to encourage, the BIPOC community out there and say, find your tribe, capital YOUR, not just anyone in the community, find yours. If you're around people that claim to be mentors and they're talking down to you, harassing you, bullying you, taking your ideas, telling you ain't nothing, dismissing you, slighting you, turning others against you because of their unresolved issues, that is not a tribe. That's an abusive person that has a mandate to try to take you out. And you have to learn the difference between I have a true mentor, a true person, versus I have someone that is actually a detriment to me. And I think that's what we have to start doing, is seeing, does this relationship, does it build, does it cultivate? Are they a benefit and an asset, or are they a detriment to me? I don't care if we share the same culture, the same language, the same skin, none of that matters. What matters is, what do they bring to the table when I'm around them? Do they really appreciate me for me, or are they just hanging around to take that idea? Or are they just hanging around to slight me and to turn the whole tribe against me? Are they hanging around because, clout chasing or what? Like, why are these people around? And so I think we have to really start vetting the relationships and seeing, why am I yoked with that person? What projects can we do together? Or, is this just a misplacement, or did we start good and our season's over? There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that happens. You're with people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. You know what I mean? It's so, and sometimes you're disappointed because you're like, I thought that was a lifetime.
Yes, babe.
That was definitely a season. You go into contract with, friends or things like that, and you're like, oh, that was definitely a season. I thought it was a lifetime. But then you have people that you wrote off as a seasonal person, and then that's like a lifetime pal, that you're like, oh my gosh, they're just beautiful. And I think that we as BIPOC women and as math leaders in general, we have to do better about that. And, and being mindful of, if there is that person, because there are people that they like to gossip and pour negativity on different people's reputations and things like that. We have to take a step back and really ask a sober question. What is their motive, and why are they doing that? You know what I mean?
And no one does that, by the way, from a place of abundance. Like, they do that because of an insecurity. They do that because I have to say, I loved what you just said 2 minutes ago about being even if we're being oppressed or whatever, we don't want to be victims. You said something really nice. You were we can, with grit and resilience, we can make something beautiful. That's what you said. And I want to just throw in there that I think one of the most powerful things you can do is just not be attached to the outcome you're trying to generate. Because I don't think it's fair to say anyone can be a millionaire. I don't like that. But we can say anyone can improve their situation. Let's not be attached
to do it. Right.
Exactly. It's I never say every kid can get a 90 in math. I say every kid can build a better relationship with math if we help them cultivate it. Beautiful. We don't know what that looks like. We don't, have a concrete definition of it. But if you're open to it, you said something earlier in the podcast about uncertainty. Uncertainty is the most beautiful thing, because in uncertainty, anything is possible. So I think that's actually a good little synergy between both of what we're both saying to the BIPOC community of yes, there is oppression, there are systemic barriers, but with tools, with mindset tools, with shifts, with community, we can always improve our situation. Be open to what that looks like. because it actually might look better than what you're imagining in your wildest dreams anyway.
Wow, that's so powerful and sweet. And, I just want to say I'm also proud of you that you've not played the victim of, being a BIPOC leader yourself out here in this space. And, I know it can, it gets lonely at the top, right? But you've handled it very well. And I commend you for that. And I'm just happy to have you in this space. And, any way I can help amplify your voice, I'm going to do that. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up this beautiful podcast. And so with that, Vanessa, Dr. Vanessa,
Dr. V. I'm going to go by Dr. V. Actually, no, Dr. Vanessa. I like that.
I like Dr. Vanessa.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
So tell us, how can we reach you if people are wanting to contact you about whether it's your book or social media or email, whatever?
Find me anywhere on any social media because I'm a 16-year-old girl at heart. And you can find me at The Math Guru. That's me literally everywhere, all over the internet.
That's amazing. See,
I
know you cracked on me. So, you got to help me with these things.
Oh my God. You have 40 different handles. They're all different. You're making people work for it. I like it.
Hey, they'll never forget me.
Yeah, they're so busy trying to find you.
So you said The Math Guru. See, she is very efficient. She's very efficient at that. See, I can teach you that, and you can teach you those handles.
Cool.
But so The Math Guru is where you can find Vanessa on actually Dr. Vanessa on every platform. So make sure that you're checking her out. And is there an email you would like to leave, or
you know what? I mean, sure. Just find me there, message me, and I'll send you my email. But also, Math Therapy is the podcast. So if you want to learn about and hear all these educators talking about math trauma and how they deal with it in their classrooms, there's a Y at the end of that, Math Therapy. Math Therapy, India, Dr. India was on my podcast, and that's why we're besties right now. And if you're not a social media person, just find me and message me, and I'll give you my email. I just
sounds good. I'm going to repost that Math Therapy.
I don't know how you're doing it, but I love it.
So yes, so you can also find Dr. Vanessa at the Math Therapy podcast. She's available also for booking. She is available. Check out her books. Check out her social media. She's good people. She comes highly recommended. And so thank you so much, Dr. Vanessa, for being on this podcast. And with that said, guys, thanks so much again for joining us on the Let's Get Gritty podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. I'm honored to be here with you. Please make sure you're following me on social media channels. I've given them to you before, which, yes, there you have it. my dissertation. You've got Facebook, Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indy Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indy238. YouTube is India White 123. And TikTok is Dr. India White. I will soon change this. So thank you for your patience. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing many of you at the upcoming conferences. Thank you, North Dakota. You've been fabulous. Thank you to FCTM that's going to have us there. Both Dr. Vanessa and I will be at camp. So check us out. Maybe we can plan something there for sure.
We have to plan something.
We have to. So yeah. So look out for us. We'll be there. We'll also be at NCSM, NCTM. I'll be at ICTM and OCTM. So I'm looking forward to seeing you at all the CTMs across this nation. And so with that said, guys, also check out the website. I've got some blogs and some stuff. If you're wanting books, there you go. You can find all the things there. And with that said, I don't want to take up too much time. You guys have been fabulous. Thanks again for joining me. And until next time, stay gritty. Thanks, Vanessa, Dr. Vanessa. You've been fabulous.
We have to take a selfie.
Okay. How do you take a selfie?
Are we taking it live? No, just, okay, everyone be in the selfie with us. Okay, ready? Okay. Cute.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa.